I promise you my dark skin will not rub off on you. Stop treating dark-skinned individuals like they're dirty. It's giving. I can't be racist because I have black friends. And no, I'm not talking about her blackface one. I wouldn't say that I hated myself for being dark-skinned, but there has been times that I wished I had a lighter complexion. And I'm not the only person. We were taught that lighter equaled prettier, smarter, and more desirable. And like any young person, I had insecurities. Color was the main one.
Pretty brown skin, pretty light skin, pretty dark skin. I see African written in your DNA. Hella choco melanin from the motherland with your...
Hello my friends, welcome back or welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Nsuku and I make lifestyle related videos. I'm trying to dive into a little bit of commentary and I just sprinkle in a little bit of this and that. So today we'll be doing a little of a self-care Sunday. So I'll be putting on the sheet mask. It's the Sorbet spot and oil control sheet mask while we discuss colorism in South Africa. I initially wasn't going to do this video because I feel like this is a overdone topic, especially by American YouTubers. It's just that South African YouTubers haven't really dived into the topic, and when you try to look into it, there's not a lot in the context of South Africa. So I thought I could just make this video to open up the dialogue, and hopefully by the end of this video you realize that colorism exists and you need to check your privilege. Earlier this year I saw a video, it was like a show on SABC1 where there was a lady who wrote on Facebook that colorism is not real and it's just an excuse for dark-skinned people to be lazy. And I thought to myself, are you just like I couldn't believe what I heard, because she was basically denying that colorism is real and then she went on and called dark-skinned people lazy. I feel like she's living in a completely different world. Like, how do you not know that colorism exists? Just because something doesn't affect you doesn't deny its existence. If you weren't aware, colorism is defined as a prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a darker skin tone within the same racial group. So this means it could be between Black people and between Asian people or Indian people, for example, or even colored people can be faced with colorism. It is important for you guys to note that colorism and racism are not the same thing. So like I said previously, it's literally within the same racial group, so within Black people or Asian people. The origins of colorism are multifaceted, and there are suggestions that white supremacy, Eurocentric beauty standards, external racism by white people, or even internalized racism by Black people, and the roles of femininity or masculinity within with concerns to race and skin tone all play a role in manifesting as colorism. Yet there's not a lot known about it in South Africa, and the lived experiences of people are not really well articulated. So I'm gonna go take off my eyeshadow and the mascara before I put on the face mask, and then we can dive into the history of colorism. Like most things in the world, we have slavery to thank for colorism. During slavery, the lighter-skinned slaves were given privileges like working indoors, doing lighter work, and receiving less harsh punishments compared to the darker-skinned slaves. The darker-skinned slaves worked outdoors and they had more severe punishments compared to their lighter counterparts. Let's just put on the face mask.
What is this, honey?
I don't think I'll be able to do this off camera, so I'm just gonna come back with it on and then we can continue from there on. Okay, I'm back. I wonder if I'll be able to talk with this thing on. Okay, so although slavery was fueled by racism, light-skin privilege was born out of it, and we still have these biases throughout the world. In the South African context, we have apartheid to thank for colorism. The Population Registration Act 30 of 1950 required South Africans to classify themselves as either white, colored, black, or other. The introduction of the colored category allowed the government to further reinforce the hierarchy in society. So we saw white people being the highest and they had the most legislative freedoms, while colored people were seen as like just below white people but above black people. So colored people had fewer legislative freedoms in comparison to the lowest people in society, which were the black people. So the reason for this was so that the people who had like a proximity to whiteness or white ancestry would still be treated a little bit better in society in comparison to the lowest, which were the black people. While racism affects all people of color, colorism discriminates against people based off of their skin tone. There are so many studies that have shown that colorism favors those of a lighter skin tone in terms of income, education, housing, and even marriage prospects. It is very evident that skin tone variation differs on the basis of how closely you resemble whiteness. So lighter skinned individuals who are closer to whiteness have better outcomes in life, and they're subjected to less discrimination and hatred, having better life outcomes, particularly in comparison to the darker counterparts. There goes my timer. Shut up, bro. Now we talk about my favorite part, my personal experiences. Let's just take this off. Okay. Do I look better? So in terms of my personal experiences, I am just gonna take a sip of some mommy juice before I get into it because these are kind of intense. Please excuse my super glowy skin, you know, I just took off the face mask. So in terms of my personal experiences, my personal favorite and the most popular one has to be, "You're so pretty for a dark-skinned girl." So these are just some of the things that were said to me. I remember back in the day, there was this one girl who loved saying things like, "I haven't met a lot of dark-skinned girls, but you and person X are the most prettiest dark-skinned girls that I've ever met." As if dark-skinned people are not allowed to be pretty. Like, how is it that you've only met two dark-skinned people in your entire life? It doesn't make sense. Two pretty dark-skinned people in your entire life. It really doesn't make sense. I remember sitting in my science class this one time, and the lady was explaining something about rocks. Well, the teacher was explaining something about rocks, and there was like a rock at the back. Well, I sat at the back in my science class, and there was a rock like next to me, and she was genuinely trying to explain something about rocks, and she said, "Oh, as you can see an example, that black rock sitting in the corner." And everyone in my class started laughing. Like, I was so embarrassed. Thankfully, I had like violin practice a few minutes after she said that, so I didn't like show any signs of sadness or anything like that, but I was so crushed when everyone started laughing. Another one that I remember was Dark Night. I'd walk into a room and the boys in my class, like this one guy yelled "Dark Night," and then everyone started laughing. At first I didn't know what that was all about, because in my mind I was kind of like ignorant to what was happening around me until like that time when somebody yelled, and I was just like, okay, I guess that was about me all along, but I didn't realize that it was about me. I also have family members who always feel the need to comment on my skin tone, or they'll say things like, "Oh, you've gotten a little bit darker. Have you been spending more time in the sun?" And I'm just like, my dad is dark. His dad was dark. All of my dad's siblings are dark. Did you guys expect me to come out looking light skinned? Like, I don't understand. So yeah, those are just a few of the things that have been said to me. A lot of these experiences that I went through shaped how I felt about myself and the things that I started to internalize. I remember, like, at some point when I was younger, I always told myself that I wanted to get married to somebody that was lighter than me, so that if we ever have children, they wouldn't be as dark as I am, and they wouldn't have to face the sort of discrimination that I've faced throughout my lifetime. Yeah, like I said, like a lot of those things shaped how I felt about myself, to a point where I even considered bleaching my skin. If you're not aware what skin bleaching is, it's basically applying like some sort of cream or a gel, maybe soap, getting those injections that make your skin lighter, or even using like household products that you have. I've heard of people using like lemon juice on their faces because it can make you lighter. If you walk anywhere around like the taxi ranks in South Africa, or I don't know where else they sell these products, but usually I see them like in the taxi ranks. I don't know where else they sell them, but I know like there are also cosmetic clinics that give injections to people that can make you lighter. So you can find products all over, like even on the internet. These products that you find contain chemicals such as hydroquinone, mercury, corticosteroids, and other acidic products like salicylic acid, detergents. Some of these products have terrible side effects. For example, hydroquinone works in a way that it prevents you from producing melanin, and that can lead to side effects such as severe acne, hyperpigmentation, skin burns, loss of elasticity, and even skin diseases. Another thing about these skin bleaching products is that it's not a long-term solution. So once you stop using them, they make your skin even darker than it was before. A lot of people are aware of the detrimental side effects of these skin bleaching products, yet this hasn't stopped 35% of 80% of Black South Africans from using the products, and from the skin bleaching industry from making $8 billion in 2020 alone. Just because I mentioned the side effects doesn't mean that I'm pro or anti skin bleaching. I feel like it's a personal choice, and growing up dark skinned and all the things that I had to get subjected to, I understand why some people would choose that route for themselves. At the end of the day, it's about loving the skin that you're in, because society has this weird thing of making our bodies into trends. If it's not about your skin, it's gonna be about your nose or your body. So you will literally go from bleaching your skin to getting a BBL to getting a nose job and getting a boob job. Like, society is never satisfied with how we look. So as individuals, we need to start loving ourselves and to stop letting the negative voices impact how we feel about ourselves. As I previously mentioned, I considered bleaching my skin when I was younger, until I saw Lupita Nyong'o on my TV screen. I started to feel a little bit less alone when I started to see somebody who looked like me. You know, a lot of the times we see dark-skinned women portrayed in a negative light in media, so they're either seen as like a villain, or they have these masculine traits. But when I saw her in like a positive light, and I saw like Alec being one of the top models, seeing people who look like me on TV screens for the first time actually made me realize how much like media perpetuates colorism, excuse me, or like the role that the media can play in potentially mitigating the effects of colorism and trying to educate people about it. There isn't much about colorism in South Africa out there, or Africa in general, but I feel like we need to start opening up the conversation and having discussions about how the media affects or perpetuates colorism, or even just talking about what it is in general, because we still get people who deny its existence, or people who try to make it seem like dark-skinned people are just looking for an excuse to be lazy. I want you to take a moment to think about like your media personalities, your actresses, or even music artists. How many of those people are dark skinned? And don't take this the wrong way and think that I'm trying to bash light skinned people or imply that they don't work hard. because they do work hard. It's just that we realize in media that being lighter skinned or racially ambiguous plays such a big role in the kinds of characters that you get, or the roles that you get to act as in shows or movies. So for example, if you look at like a Netflix show, like a top grossing one, I don't know what it is right now, but they have this thing where they always portray dark-skinned people as like a villain or a slave or a masculine character, whatever they can think of. But suddenly when it's time to portray like a desirable character, all the dark-skinned people are nowhere to be found. Like we see it with Bridgerton, where the dad was like a villain, but like Simon was the light-skinned, delicate flower that needed to be protected against his evil, dark-skinned dad. Like, I don't know if that was an intentional thing, but there's a lot of that in media. And if it wasn't for your Issa Rays, then we wouldn't get to see the same people who look like us being portrayed in media. So if you've been on Twitter, you know about the age-old debate of colorism denial and all of that stuff. And we're made to feel bad for speaking up against discrimination as dark-skinned individuals because there's going to be so much backlash that comes out of it. And I'm not saying that it's anyone's fault for being born with lighter skin. It's kind of the same thing as, well, it's not the same thing, but it's kind of similar to like white people. They didn't choose to be born white or to have white privilege, but then it's important to recognize the privilege that you have and to use it for the greater good. I remember in 2018, Cosmopolitan released a magazine with Thando Tabeta on the cover, and she looked like a shade or two darker, and the magazine got a lot of backlash. Like they were dragged to filth in the comments, hey? And I remember one of the comments, somebody said they love and support Thando Tabeta, but the magazine made her look darker than she is. I'm paraphrasing. Let me read it properly. I love and support everything that you do, but your skin color is not doing it. That's what one comment said. And then the second comment said, I wish they didn't make you look so dark. You're such a beautiful yellow bunny. What is it about like people comparing black women to objects or food? Like it's so weird. Like you don't have to call me dark chocolate every time you try to compliment me. It's weird. Like what is up with that? In 2019, Pearl Thusi found herself at the center of some controversy. And no, I'm not talking about her blackface one. That's a discussion for another day. I'm talking about where she spoke about losing jobs to darker skinned people, well, darker skinned women. And how our issues with our skin tone will not get in the way of her self-worth. And then she went on and added that she knows that colorism is real because she has dark-skinned family members. It's giving, I can't be racist because I have black friends. Shoma Josie replied to this tweet by saying that lighter-skinned women need to recognize their privilege and use it to uplift darker-skinned women. She also went into how colonialism plays a role in colorism. I was going to touch on that, but it would make this video even longer than it already is. But yeah, it's really important to know that colorism is something that existed in the colonial era. It's actually a result of all of that nasty stuff that white people did. She further went into the intersection between colorism and featureism. Again, if you're not aware, featureism is loosely defined as a prejudice towards individuals with certain features and preference towards those with features that correlate with the set beauty standards, i.e. Eurocentric beauty. So this means having straight hair or narrow nose or smaller lips, like things like that.
Why when you dark skinned you have to be exceptional to be valued? Like, you gotta be pretty, your skin tone gotta be even, your hair gotta be laid, your body gotta look right. Like, why can't dark skinned girls just be girls and be valued?
I'll link some videos on futurism in the in the description box down below, if you wanna learn more about it, or if you're interested in learning more about it. Within the same timeline, Bonnie Mbuli joined in the conversation and said, even though we don't have a lot of conversations about colorism in South Africa, I kind of noticed that there's this weird trend of dark-skinned women having short-lived careers on our screens. I don't know enough about local television, or I haven't gone into a deep analysis of it to actually comment in depth about it. But I do know that when you have a dark-skinned woman on your screens, chances are she won't last. I hate to say it. I think some of the successful darker-skinned women that have been on our screen include Bonnie Mbuli, Hlubi Moyo, Nambita. Sorry if I butcher anyone's name or surname or anything like that. And we also have Masasa. Currently, we have Vongai Mapo as an influencer. She's originally from Zimbabwe and she's quite uplifted in this influencer space. And I think it's also important that young Black women got to have a Black Miss Universe that didn't have the typical features like the straight hair. And I'm talking about our queen, Zozi Tunzi. I think it's important that young Black women get to see themselves on the screens and to see that they are accepted in the world and that they are beautiful. But I also feel like there's still so much work that needs to be done, and there needs to be an even better discussion. We need to open up dialogue. We need mainstream media to talk about these kinds of issues that we face as Black people, because I feel like right now we're not doing such a great job about it. It's always the same old storylines, and I feel like it's time for some sort of change. It's time for media to portray some of the things that we face as young Black people. Am I right or am I right? When it comes to the conversation on colorism, you start to realize that apartheid actually achieved its goal in keeping us segregated. Because if you see people posting on social media, it's always like team light-skinned or team dark-skinned or hashtag brown-skinned girl. I think Sheila Ndikumama, I'm sorry if I butchered your surname, she actually described it so beautifully in one episode of Unpacked with Rilebogile, where she actually, I'm just gonna insert the clip because I think she said it so much better than I can.
Black people in Black Panther were darker skinned.
Yes.
So now when you hear us having this conversation, do you feel and I say us because I'm not going to hide away from the fact that I'm also lighter skinned. Do you feel that actually though, guys, it's our time? Us darker skinned people have been put on the back burner for years. So whatever y'all might be complaining about, y'all as in the lighter skinned people issue is nothing compared to what me and my fellow darker skinned people might be feeling. You guys are actually the white people of this colorism. You are the Karens of this colorism conversation.
Not quite, because it leaves us back at point A, which is segregated. And I feel like that's how we are further destroyed. Because colorism is a destruction of the Black man. It essentially just destroys all of us.
Yeah.
Whether the light people are in focus or the Black people are in focus. And so I think the one thing that irks me about the situation is the fact that we have a focus. Yes, let us elevate as Black people. Let us begin to appreciate Black people. But let us not make it the center of everything. Because when we do that, then light people are going to feel some type of way. They are a few are going to feel some type of way. They're going to want to come back. Then we're fighting again for nothing. Because essentially, your skin tone, again, it's not a defining factor. And that is, I think, the one thing we need to remove from our mindset. Once that is cleared off, then we're able to start the conversation differently. To say, hey, listen, you're beautiful. Not because you're light or dark or this. Because you are you and you look the way you do. And everything about you complements each other.
We need to look within ourselves and question why we like using filters that make us look lighter, or why the skin bleaching industry was worth $8 billion in 2020. It's important for us as a society to get to a point where we see dark skin as a gift and not as a blemish. And you need to stop treating dark-skinned individuals like they're dirty. I promise you, my dark skin will not rub off on you. And you don't have to add "for a dark-skinned girl" every time that you tell me that I'm pretty. It's also important to recognize the privilege that you have and to check your own implicit biases. There's so much more that I could have spoken about on this topic because it's so multifaceted. So if you think that I've missed something or there's something important that I didn't add, please leave it in the comment section down below. And we can maybe do a part 2 where I chat to other people who have faced discrimination either for being dark-skinned or light-skinned, or who have experiences with skin bleaching. Thank you so much for watching until the very end. Remember to leave your comments down below, subscribe, like, share, and yeah, I love you a lot and I'll see you next time.